Well, patience is wearing thin for Ilovu residents in Kwazulu-Natal who were promised housing a decade ago. They've been living in temporary shacks with broken windows and infested with rodents. Mawande Keswa visited the affected community. He joins us now live. So Mawande, families have been on a housing waiting list for 10 years. They've simply had enough.
That is the case indeed. That is what we found on the ground at Lindela in Ilovu. It's one of the many transit camps that we do have in Durban. Now, what we found when we arrived there is that, if I'm not mistaken, there's between 52 to 54 units in that transit camp Lindela. And in those 54, what I learned from the residents there is that it is a one room, and you'll find that in some of them there's a family of at least 4, and they do everything in that one room. If it's time for one person to shower, then the others need to vacate and so forth. And one of the women that I spoke to said that this doesn't bode well as far as raising their children are concerned, because the adults generally then do everything in front of the children, and that is not conducive to raising a society and teaching kids the right way on how to behave and move forward in life. But because circumstances and situation forces them to live in those conditions, there's nothing they can do. They feel as though they've been stripped of their dignity. Entering those rooms was a bit tricky as well, because they were extremely hot when you walked in, and it begged the question of, if a person wants to nap during the day, that means they have to nap with the door open. The residents also complained about rodents, saying that it is rat infested and snakes as well, although they help with clearing of the rodents, but they might also pose a risk to them as they are living there. So the situation really isn't pleasant at all. And to make matters worse is that every day when they wake up, they're woken up by the sounds of tractors. They thought those tractors were bringing the much needed houses that they've been promised, but all it seems they're doing is clearing the land in and around where they are. But they don't know exactly what project is being run and whether or not they'll be in the forefront to be recipients or beneficiaries of that project.
So what are officials saying about this delay and how these people are being treated?
I've reached out to the Tegwini municipality to get clarity on what their plans are and what their response is to this, and unfortunately they've not been able to avail themselves. I contacted them as from yesterday to try and get comment from them, but there haven't been much of assistance as far as responding to this. But I'll go back again to what the residents are saying, and it is that when they arrived in 2012, they were told that they'd lived there at the transit camp for 6 months, and then they would be given the houses which were being built. Now, there was a project that was done in Ilovu, and those houses were completed, but then they say military veterans occupied those houses forcefully, and that means that they could no longer be taken to those houses. Then they were recently promised again that there's another project that is going to take place and they will be given houses. Fast forward, they are now being told that that land belongs to one of the kings, and there are people who've already occupied that land because they've paid for those stands. So they're really in quite a predicament, because they really do not know what they're going to do. And to make matters worse, they say they do not know their local ward councillor. They've never met him. Therefore, whatever issues and complaints they have, they speak about them amongst themselves, and that is where it ends.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Our reporter Mawande Keswa